When you look at a towering, rusting mountain of crushed cars, shattered washing machines, and twisted rebar, you probably just see trash. But for the people who walk these yards every single day, that mountain is a highly complex, chaotic, and sometimes incredibly dangerous puzzle. And the way you solve it depends entirely on where you stand in the scrapyard hierarchy. From the absolute beginners getting their hands dirty on the sorting line, to the heavy machinery operators tossing cars like toys, all the way up to the yard masters who read global metal markets like Wall Street traders, the scrapyard is a massive, multi-million-dollar ecosystem. Today, we are going to break down every single level of a scrapyard worker's career. We will explore what they actually do, the hidden dangers they face, how much they get paid, and why this dirty, loud, and gritty job is actually one of the most essential industries on the planet. Let's start at the very bottom. Level 1 is the sorter, sometimes called a picker or general labor. This is the entry-level position where almost everyone begins their career in the scrap industry. When mixed loads of scrap arrive at the yard and get dumped on the concrete pad, it is just a massive pile of chaos. The sorter's job is to physically go through this material and separate the valuable non-ferrous metals, like copper, aluminum, and brass, from the less valuable ferrous metals like iron and steel. It sounds simple, but it requires a very sharp eye and a lot of physical endurance. Sorters are out in the elements all day, dealing with extreme heat in the summer and freezing cold in the winter. They have to dodge sharp edges, toxic fluids leaking from old engines, and the constant threat of shifting metal piles. It is grueling, back-breaking work. But this level is crucial because this is where a worker learns the fundamentals of metal identification. A good sorter can tell the difference between cast aluminum and extruded aluminum just by the weight and the sound it makes when it hits the ground. Have you ever visited a scrapyard or thought about what actually happens to your old appliances when they die? Let me know down in the comments what the craziest or heaviest thing you've ever thrown away was. It is wild to think about where all that metal ends up. Once a worker has mastered the art of sorting and identifying metals, they usually move up to level 2, the dismantler or torch operator. This is where the job gets significantly more technical and a lot more dangerous. A dismantler's main responsibility is to take complex, multi-material items and break them down into their pure, most valuable components. For example, an old electric motor has a ton of valuable copper wire wound up tightly inside a heavy steel casing. If you sell the whole motor as is, you get a low price. But if a dismantler cuts it open and extracts the pure copper, the yard's profit margin skyrockets. Torch operators take this a step further. They use oxyacetylene cutting torches to slice through massive pieces of steel that are simply too big to fit into the shredders or shears. They are the ones cutting up old train cars, massive I-beams from demolished skyscrapers, and heavy industrial machinery. Operating a cutting torch all day means dealing with flying sparks, intense heat, and the constant risk of explosions if they accidentally cut into a pressurized tank or a sealed pipe. It takes a steady hand and a deep understanding of how metal reacts under extreme heat. If you're finding this breakdown of the hidden scrap industry fascinating, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps push this deep dive out to more people who might not know the incredible amount of work that goes into recycling the modern world. As we move up the hierarchy, we reach level 3, the heavy equipment operator. If the sorters and dismantlers are the infantry of the scrapyard, the equipment operators are the heavy artillery. These are the highly skilled workers operating the massive material handlers, excavators, and loaders. You have probably seen videos of those giant hydraulic claws or electromagnets picking up entire cars and dropping them into a shredder. That is the equipment operator at work. Their job is all about volume and efficiency. A scrapyard only makes money when material is constantly moving. The operators are responsible for feeding the massive shredders and balers, moving mountains of processed scrap into shipping containers, and keeping the yard organized so the trucks can get in and out quickly. This level requires immense precision. Operating a massive machine with a 1,000-pound magnet swinging from the end of it while navigating around ground workers and customer vehicles is incredibly stressful. One wrong move could cause a fatal accident or destroy hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment. Would you ever want to operate a massive shear that slices through a school bus like a pair of scissors cutting paper? Tell me what your dream heavy machinery job would be in the comments below. It definitely looks fun, but the responsibility is massive. Next up, we hit level 4, the scale master or buyer. This is the front line of the scrapyard's business operations. The scale master sits in the scale house, which is the nerve center of the entire facility. Every single truck, van, or person with a shopping cart full of metal that enters the yard has to go through them. The scale master's job is to weigh the inbound material, inspect it for quality, and negotiate the price. This requires an encyclopedic knowledge of metal grades and current market prices. But more importantly, it requires incredible people skills and a finely tuned bullshit detector. The scrap industry can attract some unsavory characters trying to make a quick buck off stolen material. Scale masters have to constantly watch out for people trying to sell stolen catalytic converters, city manhole covers, or copper wire ripped out of abandoned houses. They also have to catch clever tricks, like customers hiding rocks or water inside a load of scrap to falsely increase the weight. A good scale master is part metal expert, part accountant, and part detective. They protect the yard from losing money on bad material and keep the legal liabilities in check. Finally, we reach the top of the pyramid, level 5, the yard manager or owner. At this level, you are no longer just looking at piles of metal, you are looking at global commodities markets. The scrap metal industry is intimately tied to global economics. The price of copper, steel, and aluminum fluctuates every single minute based on international trade deals, manufacturing demands in countries like China and India, and global supply chain disruptions. The yard manager's job is to look at the massive inventory of scrap sitting in their yard and decide exactly when to sell it. If they sell 1 million pounds of copper today, they might make a massive profit. But if they hold onto it for another month and the price drops by 20 cents a pound, they could lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. They manage the logistics of loading scrap onto freight trains and massive cargo ships, negotiate multi-million-dollar contracts with steel mills and foundries, and ensure the yard is compliant with incredibly strict environmental regulations. It is a high-stakes, high-stress position where global geopolitics directly impacts the dirt and grime of the local yard. We've covered everything from the entry-level sorter freezing their hands on a winter morning to the yard manager moving thousands of tons of steel across the ocean. If you appreciate these deep dives into the hidden jobs and secret economies that actually keep our world running, hit that subscribe button. We are constantly exploring the massive, overlooked industries that shape our society, and having you along for the ride makes these deep dives possible. So the next time you drive past a scrapyard and see what just looks like a chaotic wasteland of garbage, you will know the truth. You are looking at a highly organized, relentless machine. It is a place where every single piece of rusted metal has a specific value, and where thousands of hard-working people have built an entire career out of turning the world's trash back into treasure. The scrapyard isn't the end of the line for our discarded junk, it is the very beginning of the global supply chain, fueled by the sweat and expertise of the workers at every single level.